Welcome to Politically Deconstructing. We're back after a little bit more of a break. We all got life and family and the shits, but we are back. It's with me, Cass, and my lovely co-host, Miss Lady Google. And we're just going to be talking about the shits today because every day we wake up to a fresh hellscape. What would you like to start with, Googs?
I mean, honestly, let's go with your court case first. Since you're fresh off of it and you've just been ranting into the abyss,
I
let's uh
have. I
let's
have.
start there because everybody's talking about Iran and we'll fucking get there.
Yeah, so today we had a Second Amendment case that came up before the Supreme Court. I was really feeling like they might have done the same thing they did with a previous case called Rahimi, which was on related grounds to prohibiting dangerous people or things like that from owning guns. It does not take the turn I thought it was going to take. So, essentially, what happened with Hemani today, because we did US v. Hemani. US v. Hemani was dealing with people who use maybe those illicit substances, if you will, but are otherwise kind of chill. So Hemani had his house raided by the government. He was not actively using that we're aware of at the time. He was just like he admitted that he smoked the greenery every other day, right? TikTok friendly language here. So he admitted to this, even though they found some booga sugar and some leafy greens and a Glock. So the government said because he admitted to using the greenery every other day, like the booga sugar didn't even come up here, but because he admitted to using the greenery every other day, they were allowed to take his firearm away because he was a habitual user and or addict, because both qualify here. Okay, so I really thought this argument was going to go down focusing on more stuff about Hemani. It did not go down that way because the government was making this dog shit argument that because back in the day, we could prohibit these you call them drunkards, right? Where they have
Mhm.
like the wet brain that even when they're
Right.
intoxicated, they're still like not functioning. Well, almost all the justices minus Alito were kind of like, but how are you defining habitual here? What
Right.
qualifies as habitual? And then something I really found interesting was that Hemani's attorney was saying, look, if they want to make a category of people who can't use, like that's cool, but you're still going to need to prove your burden that they are a habitual user or an addict, which is what it all
Right.
comes down to, right? The government can't just say because we think he's a habitual user or an addict, he is one. And the only one who seemed a little combative with Hemani's attorney was Alito. He seemed a little on the government side, but it's not totally off par for him. It was just odd. And so I'm going to call Alito as probably going pro government on this. Everybody else seemed to kind of pick it apart. Roberts and Kavanaugh were a little too up in the air for me to really get a definitive read on.
That's fair.
However, everybody else seemed to pretty much be on the bandwagon. Gorsuch in particular, that the government's argument is dog shit, and you better be doing what you need to do to make sure that this law is not so overly broad and that people like the government, if they want to do this, they better prove that this is what
Right.
this is. So it was quite interesting. I didn't see it going down that way, but damn that it did was fun. It was very
Right.
interesting.
I mean, and that's really what the crux of the case should have been about. I think we discussed a little bit that a lot of times you get character assassination to prove a point, and instead they actually focused on whether or not how to define a user and a habitual user and an addict, which is what should have been considered more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Um I mean, that was really the crux of that. We'll see how it goes, but I mean, I'm really thinking like the government's not going to prevail on this one, which I wasn't looking for, but I'm glad that I found it. That's my bet right now. If I were doing call sheet or something, I would be taking bets that that the Supreme Court is saying the government's argument is dog shit here. They could narrowly tailor it. I can't tell you what kind of outcome that they want to proceed to. This wasn't like a everybody situation. This was specific to Hemani. And previously, the Fifth Circuit had said, no, this is a violation. This is your argument's dog shit here. So that's kind of where we're at. Also, the other day, I woke up to boom booms. I literally probably woke up at the exact minute those boom booms were flying into Iran. So I'm thinking we talk about that a little bit because what the fuck?
I feel like if we get on that topic, we're not getting back off of it.
Okay, do you wanna
But
throw something else
no,
out?
actually, like there was something I wanted to talk about just a little bit, like briefly touch
Yeah,
on, but it does actually feed into the Iran controversy.
sure.
So, did you hear about Anthropic, the AI company
Yeah,
Anthropic?
I think I've heard of them, but I
They
don't know. I don't know a lot.
Okay, they have a lot of government contracts. The government, the military specifically, uses some of their AI capability for their drone strikes and for monitoring capabilities. And Pete Hegseth last week kind of put an ultimatum to Anthropic. We want full control of monitoring abilities, basically to be able to spy on the American people through this AI. Lots of companies use this AI. And the second caveat was they wanted access to be able to carry out drone strikes and military operations 100% autonomously with no human oversight. They wanted AI to be able to make those decisions. I wish I was making this up. This is what Pete Hegseth
What?
actually demanded. And Anthropic kind of like took a couple days and they were like, we cannot grant you access to this. We cannot, in good faith, as a private company, number one, allow you to violate all of our users' privacy. And number two, AI is not capable of the type of cognitive thinking that is necessary to oversee military strikes without human running interface. So
Gotcha.
Anthropic said, no dice. We are refusing to give you this. So the government has now listed Anthropic, which is an American company, as a, I don't want to say it was domestic terrorism, but as a potential security risk. And they have cut over $200 million worth of contracts with the government that they use their capabilities for, but then turned around after denying them all access and cutting all of their ties and pulling their contracts, then turned around and used Anthropic's AI for the drone strikes in Iran after claiming like their stock is tanking. They're claiming, the government is claiming that that Anthropic is not good for the government, that they're a security risk, that they're un-American. I think Trump himself called them a woke liberal country
What the
because they
fuck?
would. I'm not even kidding. And then they turned around after claiming that this company was a danger to the American public and the government, still used their AI to commit these drone strikes.
Girl, what the fuck? Like, okay, so their danger. I really feel like this is where I get into a lot of beef with this administration. I mean, to be completely fair, it's not to the level we're seeing, but it does happen governmentally with every administration. There's horse shit that goes on. Like, I'm not casting stones, right?
I want to let you know real quick before we go any further. OpenAI, who does like Chat GPT, we all know Chat.
Yeah.
When they did this to Anthropic, OpenAI came right in and they were like, "Hey, homie, we're willing to make a deal."
I mean, okay, so Chat GPT controlling drone
Well,
strikes.
I the over not Chat GPT, OpenAI, who's the company that controls chat GPT. But if you think about the monitoring capabilities that Hegseth was asking for, just think about every single thing you put into chat GPT, getting it to ask a question or getting it. Imagine the government having full access to anything and everything you ask chat GPT.
That feels illegal. I'm not even going to lie.
Which is literally why Anthropic was like, as an American company who upholds the values of the Constitution, we feel what you are asking for is a violation of the very fundamentals of America, and we will not comply. And now the government, which, you know, we've talked about this before, the Constitution doesn't protect you and me from other people. Yeah. It protects us from the government. And we are now seeing the US government retaliate against a company for not complying with its demands for access to its technology unlimited.
I mean, I'll say this, like we had talked about this before with the government subpoenaing certain or issuing companies orders that they want people who talk badly about ICE. They want all their information. They want their usernames. They want their posts. They want their this or any information they have on the user, right? And I can't say like that was the government's trajectory with this, but I can say I will always be cautious when the government is freely allowed too much information about what you are doing. Now, some people will make the argument like, well, if you don't have anything to hide, what are you worried about? It's not about that, though. It's not about that. It's about sort of that unenumerated right to privacy, which the Supreme Court has been fairly firm on. I don't know that it would inherently be a First Amendment, but maybe some unreasonable search and seizure in there.
I'm far less concerned. Not that I'm not concerned with the invasion of privacy. I am far more concerned with the military aspects of this, the idea of AI making strike decisions and military decisions. That is where I am genuinely concerned. The rest of it can be fought about later.
Yeah.
It's just fucking wild.
No, see, that's my issue with it too, because again, I do think that AI is come a long way. I'm not knocking AI, but I am saying that technology is not accountable. I'll say that again. Technology is not accountable. If a mistake gets made by AI, how are we going to hold that accountable? A person who pushes a button can be held accountable. And like the instances of that are so ungodly rare to begin with. But like, let's say it happens. I want a person to be making that choice because that person can be held accountable. Holding a whole company accountable for something that is like, you know, logarithmic, whatever.
Thousands of people write that code.
I mean,
and it's not, there's still, like, I understand that AI has a certain amount of control over what they're doing, but it's not completely autonomous. Like, you still have somebody that is overseeing and making the final decision. You have a human brain capable of distinguishing things like friendly fire or nuances that maybe AI doesn't pick up on. Think of talking to Chat GPT. You ask a question and you don't get the answer you're looking for because they don't necessarily understand the nuances. They'll ask you follow-up questions to make sure that they understand what you're looking for. If in military strikes, you don't have the ability with no human to interact with, if it's just left running on its own, that's just a recipe for some fuck shit to happen. It's just not there yet. And I don't know that I would ever be comfortable thinking that it is.
I can agree to that. Like, I mean, again, we may get to a point where I'm kind of like, okay, this is good. I can't say we won't get there. It's going to depend on where we're at, all the technology. But like, for me, it's just the simple fact that like, again, I'm not, like, to your point, I'm not making the claim that like we don't already use some of this technology, but like I'm saying there's human backing to it, which makes me more comfortable.
So,
and like,
go ahead.
No. It's just that, like, I strongly feel that technology on its own really can't be held accountable. Thus, it bothers me fundamentally.
Now, you work in the medical field, do you not? Or
Yeah, I
have
have
in the past?
previously.
Okay. So I know that AI is now like they have AI working for insurance companies even to determine the eligibility of claims.
Yep.
And they'll kick them out and bring them back. But as of right now, like AI does a good portion of that, but once it's kicked out, is there still like some kind of human oversight to that kind of goes through in certain instances and looks at it, or is only once you resubmit does it go to that level? I'm just saying
So,
because I know that there have been issues with AI kicking claims out that would otherwise be approved, but AI looking from its very limit. I mean, think about what Doge did, right? They wrote a bunch of computer programs that said find this, that, and the other. How much fuck shit came out of that?
well, like, I can't speak specifically to like the insurance industry. That wasn't my part of the industry of healthcare, at least from what I vaguely know about it. And again, I'm going to tell you vaguely because this is kind of like stuff I've heard in the wind kind of thing.
Right.
But was that I know particularly United Healthcare had an issue with it, where they were, it was like something like 90%. And I'm, don't hold me to that number because this is just stuff I've heard, not stuff I verified. So again, I want to be super clear about this. This is not like a bunch of fucking claims, and like, these were like reasonably valid claims. And it's one of those where, think about it. I try to think about it like I think about TikTok, right? Like right now we're going through an issue with TikTok where the app is overly sensitive. They've done some algorithmic changes, and like people are getting booted for like X, Y, or Z, and they're not, supposed to be booted. That's kind of the way I ask people to
Bullying
look at it.
Supreme Court
Yeah.
justices.
But yeah, that's just kind of the way I tell people to look at it, because when you have that lack of human oversight, you it's very hard. Although
Yeah,
AI learns, it's
it
very
does.
hard to catch every little nuance, every little thing. Particularly when you're talking about an app like TikTok, particularly when this was a wider spread app, different areas, da 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 da. Certain things are cool in Canada that aren't cool in America. Like, and we have different phrases, different
Right.
sayings, different methods.
Right.
So it gets very problematic when you're dealing with something that's very automated to account
Yes.
for every level of nuance. So yeah.
So, anyways, that was my Anthropic, and it
Yeah.
does lead into Iran because I did, like I said, find it interesting that after being labeled unsafe, the military continued to use it to carry out these strikes. So I thought that was ironic. But yeah,
Yeah.
let's talk about Iran.
Oh God. So Google, I woke up at like 1:32 in the morning. I'm on Central Standard Time with whatever fucking shittery that was. I mean, to be fair to everybody, everybody's talking about, oh, they did it while they're asleep. Local timing plays a factor in these things. I want everybody, again, maybe it's sneaky, but it's also local timing that's going to play a factor in when they're doing the shittery.
Right.
Um,
It was
and
right before dawn.
yeah, and like,
Yeah. Over there.
so as you know, I'm pretty non-interventionalist. I don't think it's our job to be like playing world police. And I've been pretty consistent about that measure. I do make exceptions. I make an exception for Ukraine because we have literal agreements in place that are signed. I can't do anything about those fucking agreements, but I do believe in honoring agreements we have in place. And also the fact that we were not boots on ground in Ukraine. We were sending aid and funds, even though, again, not a big fan of that, but there's nothing I can do when we have an agreement in place. I'm not going to actively say we should violate those agreements. However, we apparently teamed up with Israel and decided that we're going to do just a whole regime change, which is crazy, right? Like, what? Let me ask you a question, Google. Can you think of a time that this has ever worked? particularly
No.
within the Middle East specifically.
And specifically with no boots on the ground. No, I don't think that there is any single point in history where we have done a strike like this where we did not actively go into a country where a regime change worked and democracy is what took over.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I guess that's what's a little, sorry, I'm moving something over, and I do apologize right now. My brain just brain farted. I think when we're talking about this, it's certainly, we did, I know it's either yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, we did lose 3 American soldiers.
One more today.
Yeah, and I just, I guess my hesitation and trepidation with this, number one, is that our regime changes, look at that history in Iran in particular, never fucking work. And the second is that, why is it our business? Like again, you're never gonna get me over here simping for the IRGC.
No.
Like, that's not what I'm doing. But two things can be true at once. I can think that what they are doing is deplorable, fucked up, and the worst thing in the fucking world. But I can also say it's not my problem to fix. Two things can absolutely be true at once. And then the third problem I get into with this is that I've seen this in Iraq. I've heard they have weapons of mass destruction before. Hey, Bush, shout out. And then they don't. And then we end up with egg on our face and fighting a 20-year war. Just saying.
We've been listening to, and I can only call out Netanyahu specifically because of the clips I have seen. There's video clips of him since 1995 going before international panels saying Iran is days, weeks, or months away from having nuclear capabilities. 1995. That's 31 years. And we can argue that they may have been trying to enrich uranium since then. We can argue that we have actively, quietly been fighting against that in the form of unaliving nuclear scientists that they get in their homes or in, like, quietly, like we can say that we've been fighting their nuclear program for 30 years, ever since this regime took over. However, in 31 years, it's never been so dire that we had to go in overnight and bomb. And especially when we were just told this summer, right? We were just told this summer that we had obliterated their nuclear capabilities. I mean,
I think, to be specific, it was their centrifuges, right? But when you're talking about enriching uranium, right? Like, okay, so if you're at 60%, and we were never, this was the problem I had with sort of the Trump position on this, right? Like, and sort of the people that we talked to on this app, right? They never delineated, like, where these people were we already know that they were removing this uranium, right? Like, it wasn't there when it got hit, right? Or at least a very limited capacity.
They were moving it. They knew this was coming. Yeah. They moved it.
So they say that they got rid of this, but then I'm asking them, like, about the 60, and then, oh, well, we obliterated the centrifuges. Okay, those take a while to build. Right. How are they at 90% in less than 6 months?
Right.
That was what never quite pieced together for me.
And interestingly enough, and I know I made a video about it, and I'm only going off of what he said. Yeah. Ted Cruz was on Face the Nation this weekend with Margaret Brenner, and she asked him about Iran's nuclear capabilities, and he said from his own mouth, he said he had spent most of the day with Donald Trump on Friday before these attacks were launched, and that they had discussed at length because he supports the attacks on Iran. But he said that there was no credible evidence to suggest that Iran was close to developing a nuclear missile, that we had, and his words again, we had pretty much obliterated that capability in the summer. And that was from Ted Cruz, who said he spent all day with Donald Trump on Friday discussing this.
I mean, I'm just saying, this has been my biggest problem, and this is what I have discussed with multiple MAGAs, and I can't get a clear answer on. Number one, when does No New Wars start? I'm just curious. I'm asking for a friend, you know? The second one is, what was their immediate threat? Because as a non-interventionalist, I can sort of be okay. If there is if they have nukes pointed at us,
Right.
yeah, by all means, let's go for it. I'm not that unreasonable to be like, they have to nuke us before we go do anything, right? But as a non-interventionalist, you better be able to show me some sort of immediate need for
threat.
us to strike. They haven't presented that. And I remember, oh my God, I have a Twitter post where all is Bush saying Iraq has WMDs, Trump saying Iran has WMDs, and somebody I've seen this before.
Right.
It's gotten a bazillion friggin' likes on Twitter because it's responding to somebody who's making a post hoc justification that, oh, well, I had heard from the Trump administration officials that there were actual threats. And I'm like, if they had those, it would be posted everywhere. They wouldn't have hid that, and they definitely wouldn't have given it to fucking Scott Jennings. They would be on the nightly news showing you the exact threats they're worried about. Just saying.
No, it's bullshit. It is what it is. I mean, again, we're not sitting here simping for Israel or for the Ayatollah or for the supreme leader or any of the bullshit that they have done. None of it. Absolutely none of it. All of it is absolutely atrocious.
To be so fundamentally clear, I don't give a fuck that guy is clapped. I am not crying any tears that he's gone. My bigger concern is time, tax dollars, and most importantly, our soldiers. That is the most important thing to me. I mean, for the people that screamed, no new wars, and I agree, at this point right now, we cannot classify it as a war. Right now, this is strikes, probably leading to some involvement, but I can be clear and I can be reasonable with my point that where we're at this moment, not war.
I mean, in all fairness though, Cass, we haven't actively been quote unquote in a war since what?
I agree. It was World War II. World War II, to be fair,
was the last time we officially declared war.
Yeah, but I'm just saying I can be fair, with the timeline we're on.
Right. We are in a conflict right now.
Yeah, but it's weird that we started a board of peace a month ago, and the next month we're bomb Iran. I'm just saying it's a little weird, isn't it?
That's why I'm sitting here eating my Ruth Bader Ginsburg judgments. Do you see my judgments?
I love it.
Because I'm a little judgy right now.
I mean, listen, I realize that there are going to be for and against points. I get it. You know what? The Ayatollah, he was a terrible person. Again, not shedding any tears that he got clapped in any way. I'm just saying two things can be true at once. I can think he sucks and I'm not be sad that he got clapped and still think that maybe we shouldn't have been the ones to do it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean,
so here's an interesting point that I didn't think about with this, just to I'm not trying to get off the subject of Iran. It actually also ties into that. But we do know right now that we have a very specific portion of our government shut down, right? The Department of Homeland Security is not getting funded. With additional funding, let's be so for real. They have enough money to be going. But I do find it interesting that right now what I'm seeing some Republicans call for is using this Iran conflict as a reason to call Democrats back to the table to vote on getting Department of Homeland Security funding back, which, let's be real, the money that we're fighting over is money for ICE, not to defend ourselves from foreign and domestic terrorists, but they are using this conflict as an excuse to bully Democrats into funding the Department of Homeland Security.
Well, so, okay, to be clear, because I got into it with Kristi Noem on Twitter, because she did put out a post, and we're all safe now, guys. Kristi Noem is on the motherfucking case, y'all. She said that she was going to direct all the peoples to, like, making sure that our homeland isn't threatened. And I was like, everybody needs to build a bunker if this bitch is on the case, right? So, to be fair, they may be doing that.
Means a bird-legged. Sorry.
No, you're good. To be fair, potentially, maybe they're doing that. However, they just said, I mean, again, loose association, not making a claim here, to be fair. The FBI just picked up a case out of Austin where some people were clapped outside a bar. But the thing is that they're not giving a lot of details other than the shirt he was wearing, which says property of Allah. But again, I feel like they need to be abundantly clear. And to be fair, whoever the representative was that made the statement did say, we don't have any definitive ties. We don't have blah, 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 blah. But people read a lot into these situations. And we have to be fair here. He could have just been mad at some girl he was dating in the bar, or literally just could be this. So that's the problem, is this.
And him being an individual doesn't necessarily imply that there's some cell that he's operating with, right?
Yeah.
Like, he could just be a crazy fucking person.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem, is that we're introducing so many unknowns by stepping into this conflict, which is
it looks like a convenient coincidence.
Very much so. And I think, like, where we're at is just that, like, everything's going to be on high alert. Make sure you're reading through statements made. Please don't make a lot of assumptions. Like, again, I take a non-interventionist stance, but, like, I know other people don't. And maybe some people are happy about this. For me, it's fundamentally horrifying. But again, I'm not judging anybody for having a different stance. I'm only asking you to think about why you have that stance.
Right.
That's the bigger thing for me, is like, if you were attracted by MAGA and this sort of appeal to, like, peace, no new wars,
America
things like that,
first.
America first, this doesn't seem fundamentally America first. This seems like we're teaming up with Israel and clapping Iran because we got a wild hair up our ass. Because again, I would ask you, do you have evidence from the Trump administration of any immediate threat? And when I say evidence, I mean something tangible. They're showing you a boom boom point at us. They're showing you these WMDs that they're saying are sitting there.
Or they're showing us, like, intercepted telecommunications between cells where they have, like, a credible, imminent or immediate threat.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to call bullshit. And I mean, again, I realize that they're, like, on a military level, there are going to be things that they're just never going to share with the American
public. Of course. Go ahead.
Well, no. Go ahead.
I actually just had a conversation today with Dave, the angry lawyer, about this. Sure. And I think that what I'm probably most pissed about, just in general, this administration has brought it to light more than other administrations, but I genuinely don't remember a time when we could look at our government and know that we weren't being lied to about something. And I'm just really tired as an American of being treated like a person who cannot understand what is going on. If something is going on, don't lie to me. Don't tell me there's boom booms over here and we've got to go do it for this reason, you can say, well, he murdered 40,000 of his citizens for protesting. I understand that. And here's the thing. The people that have the cognitive ability to understand what's going on are going to understand whether you lie to us or tell us the truth. And the people that are going to feed into other shit and blow it up into something they're not are going to do that with or without the truth. But at least this way you can't be called a liar and I can trust the information that I'm getting. And this is not just a Trump administration thing. I can't remember the last time that our government wasn't hiding things from us. And I understand certain things for national security, shit like that. Like I understand, but on a larger scale, just lying about everything does not facilitate any type of trust. And to say, well, we don't want to tell the truth because, you know, we don't want the reaction, we don't want the backlash. Listen, we either trust you, we've already elected you, you're already in office. We either trust you to make decisions that are good for this country or we don't. Just tell us what's going on. I'm real tired of being lied to.
Well, yeah, and I think that's a bigger thing, right? Like, I think people have gotten so used to being lied to, right? And I also think that, like, I think MAGA's very inclined to feel like Trump is telling the truth, but to be fair, when a Democrat's in office and you're looking at people on the left, they're very inclined to feel like that Democrat is telling the truth. Like, I mean, there were things with Biden that, like, as an independent, I was fundamentally horrified by. The fucking Her report, he gave or at least was strongly alleged to have given confidential information away to a ghostwriter because I carry the same energy. I don't give a fuck. I carry the same energy for him that I carried for Trump having fucking classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. Right. No, fucking no. That's a security risk. And I was kind of like, okay, vibing with Biden before that. But after I read the Her report, I completely pulled my support because I can't support Trump, Biden doing it. Right. It just doesn't make sense.
Same energy across the board, which is how you and I have ended up doing this right here. Politically deconstructing, like calling out the bullshit on both sides, taking the politics out of it and getting down to the actual nuts and bolts of what it is we're dealing with. Trying to cut out the lies and the fluff and get down to the facts and the truth.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it just seems like, particularly with this administration, I'm fundamentally horrified by the basic disrespect of not only the courts, but also just blatant congressional authority. Now, to be clear, because a lot of people talk about this, and I want to clarify because I've talked to law, I've read, oh my God, I've read so many different opinions on this. However, from what we know, because of the text, within the War Powers Act, he has about 60 days to engage without, and 90, if there's a specific extension of Congress, and I believe what law was explaining was that that 30 days that the extension is given for withdrawal, not continued engagement. Where, like, that's where we're at before we're going to Congress and getting like an AUMF, which is authorized use of military force. We're going in, we're engaging, we're doing more. Now, I know this gets really touchy because people always think, well, we need a declaration of war or he needs consent before he does anything. That is not the way it works. Because
it's not the way it works.
Yeah. Because unfortunately, when you're the president, especially if you have an emergency, well, you're going to need to be able to take care of these things. Now, do I agree? Usually what they want is for them to notify Congress before they do, particularly like Armed Services Committee, things like that. But sometimes that doesn't happen, and they have within 48 hours of the strike to notify them. Right. And that's what I understand about it at this current point. This is not my particular thing I do a lot, so I want to be clear that this is more, I've been reading different legal opinions on this. An argument can be made, though, that with the War Powers Act, there is certain specifications, I believe it's part C at the beginning of it, that says that, like, unless basically it's a direct attack on the homeland, or
Right.
there's been a statutory, which is the AUMF, authorized use of military force, or there is a declaration of war, he can't do these things. However, to be fair to Trump, we've been letting presidents do a lot of that shit for a long time without bringing this up. So,
And in all fairness, the reason that's written in the way it is, the reason we have those is for instances of emergency.
yeah.
Think 9/11. When that shit happened, you needed the president to be able to make decisions in the moment without assembling Congress, getting permission. That in an emergency, we need him to be able to do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
That's why those powers exist. And I don't have a problem with those powers. But what we find specifically with this administration, we can go through history and talk about all the different ways that different presidents have abused the powers that they're given. But with this particular administration, we seem to operate strictly on all of the loopholes. If there is a loophole that can be exploited, we are going to use that. No different than the tariffs with IEEPA, right? Like, we just had the Supreme Court rule that you cannot use IEEPA in order to put the tariffs on it. Were there other ways he could have went about it? Of course he would, but it's easier for a president to say, oh, well, it's an emergency, because we give our presidents a certain amount of power in an emergency situation so that they can execute things the way they need to be done in an emergency. And that's where this falls in.
Well, and so the really, like, sort of colorable argument here is, like, I explained sort of the other side where people are coming from, that, oh, it only does X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
But the reason this creates an argument, right, is because explicitly in constitutionally, he's the basically commander-in-chief of the military forces, So the War Powers Act was actually back around Nixon, Vietnam, all this shit like that, because they wanted to limit the ability of the president to be able to act, right, in these, like, sort of emergency type situations. The colorable argument could be, especially for fucking fans of unitary executive theory, is that that's kind of encroaching on his constitutional authority, which is why we're in the pickle we're fucking in. So I would just implore people that, like, there are multiple sides of this argument, but at least the way
and we've
we've
just
done
discussed
this,
two different ones.
yeah, at least the way we've done this for 50 years or so, let's just go off the last 50 years, is that, like, they have about 60 days, and then they need more consent from Congress, and they need to at least notify them within 48 hours that they did something. They don't have to authorize it before, but to be fair to other people, in Trump's own words, this was war. When he gave that 7-10 minute speech, he called it that. Now, again, it's Trump. He's usually talking out his ass, but I mean, it creates some very interesting questions that we can ask, right?
It does. And I have to throw this in here. I've seen the videos. I swear I didn't see any of the videos before I text you and said it, but his little speech totally gave Lord Farquaad, like, some of you may die, and
Yes.
that is a risk that I'm willing to take. Like, I literally thought that while he was giving the speech. I was like, oh, did we watch Shrek this weekend, motherfucker? Like, that's where I was at on that. It was wild.
That was exactly what it was. And I'm like, listen, I'm just saying, and I keep going back to this because I think it's so important. I absolutely believe that parties are partisan and they're inclined to side with people even if it's not logically consistent.
Right.
I'm not going to be logically inconsistent here. Like I told y'all, there were things about Biden that fucking fundamentally pissed me off, and I fucking stopped supporting him for that very fucking reason.
Do you know, ironically, I didn't vote for Obama. I did the first time. Do you want to know why I did not vote for Obama his second term? Because of his use of executive orders. Because I feel like that's circumventing the way our government is set up. And I feel like EOs are not designed for that. And because of the opposition, he used EOs to circumvent the process. Literally why I did not vote for Obama his second term. I actually abstained from that election altogether because I wasn't going to vote for him again because I didn't like the way he was using executive orders. And now here the fuck we are.
Well, and see, like, a lot of people like talk, like, so, okay, I left the Republican Party in 2018, 2019, right around that time. I didn't vote for Biden, but like, I tentatively supported him, but I voted on my down ballot. But in my presidential, I was very like, I don't know how I feel about this, right?
Right.
Like, I didn't like Trump. At that point, I was done with Trump, but I was also did not know how to feel about Biden. As we got more into the presidency, I started kind of tentatively giving him that support. I was okay with it. But then I read her report and it was all over because I'm not an inconsistent fucking bitch, right? Like, I'm not going to do that shit. But then I look at this stuff and like, please don't be so quick to defend it just because it's Trump, Biden, Harris, whoever the hell, Gavin Newsom. I don't care. Always critically evaluate what you're supporting and make sure that if you are holding Trump to a standard, you are holding Democrats to that exact same standard. Now, I'm not making comparisons. I think Trump is arguably worse. But I'm just saying.
It's interesting. That's kind of the argument I've been going back and forth with the e-files. And I'm not getting into the e-files here. I'm just saying the amount of people that I have heard arguing, well, what about Bill Clinton? What about this person? They are named in the files. Why aren't we going after this person? Or demonizing a person and assigning blame to them for being named in the files, but yet we'll see someone else's name in the files and be like, oh, well, that they are not guilty. All I'm asking for is the same energy. Like, if you want to go after X, Y, and Z because you assign blame for them being in the files, then you have to have that energy for other people, depending on how they're named. I understand that some people are just randomly mentioned, but I'm talking about accusations, and I acknowledge that these are accusations, right? Like, I don't really want to get into all of this, but a lot of the things that are said in there are accusations. They've never been through the court process. We don't have a lot of evidence for them. They're claims. And I mean, but if you're gonna assign blame based on those claims, you've got to have the same energy across the board.
I agree. Like, listen, I mean, here's how I've always approached the Epstein files. First of all, I already knew Trump sucked based on just literal court cases that were proven. I didn't need these, right? Like, I didn't need any of it. And I don't really follow it. You know why? Because honestly, at the end of the day, it's likely that the statute of limitations has been reached for most people. That's just the reality of where we're at because they're so old. A lot of this behavior is 10-ish years old. Like, we've probably reached a statute of limitations for a lot of people. And really the only thing I've been accurately able to surmise from what I know, and again, it's incomplete, is that Trump likely knew something was going on but didn't say anything. Right. Now, let me be clear. That behavior is just as reprehensible as literally assaulting somebody. Right. I feel like we have to be careful in the way that we approach this, because if you're out here screaming, what about Clinton? What about Bill Gates? What about XYZ? Well, you better be having the same energy for Trump. But if you're screaming, what about Trump? And I will say it's fairly consistent, at least what I've seen on the left, that like, they're just like, lock them all up. I don't care. Right. So I will be fair there. And I will say I've seen some MAGA do that as well. It's Trump supporters that have either left supporting him because they're alarmed by these files, or have at least said, we need more investigation. And I want to give the ones that have done that, I do want to give them credit for that because it has been a thing. And I don't want to underplay it because I think it's important here. But if you're screaming, what about Clinton, but you don't care about Trump, I do think that is fundamentally wrong because you have to keep that energy, to your point.
Right. And that's the point. Like, same energy across the board. Like you like to say, everybody likes a dictator as long as it's their dictator. Like, stop it.
Yeah. And It's honestly so fucking true. Like, I will talk to people that really are so lost in the sauce that I could be like, what if Biden comes in and bans hate speech? And they're like, I'm cool with that. And I'm like, what if Trump comes in and says hate speech isn't allowed? And they're not cool with it.
Right.
Because just
The
because of who
difference
it comes
between
from.
what will be defined as hate speech is going to be different, and they don't want it to affect them.
Well, yeah, and that's the
Well,
thing.
how many times have we seen those little, we're all on TikTok or YouTube or wherever, and you see the interviews? Oh, when they're interviewing people, hey, did you see where Biden said X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
What did you think of that? And the people are like, oh my God, no, that's horrible. I can't believe he said that. Like, why would anybody say that? And they're like, oh, no, my bad. I'm sorry. It was actually Trump that said X, Y, and Z. And then they're like, oh, well, no, that's okay. Like, what he meant was, or I'm okay with that it's the exact same thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I always qualify it like this. Listen, never be okay with any of your rights being violated. I do not like, nor do I support any type of hate speech. However, I like the fact that we have very like open and broad speech laws, because I worry about when my speech becomes
Right.
dissident speech. I don't want overwhelming control over what I'm able to say or do, because just as much as that shitbag is able to go out there and do the sig heils and all the, we'll go with that. I'm also allowed to stand across from him with a megaphone and scream, you suck, you're a POS, like blah, 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 blah. I like that. Granted, I don't like what they're doing, but I like the fact that if an administration comes in that's pro that shit, they can't tell me I can't stand across from them and tell them they're dog shit.
Right. No, I'm with you 100%.
Crazy.
I want off this timeline, but clearly we're not getting off this timeline.
It just, I'm so tired of the fresh hellscape, and I feel like Trump is saying 5 weeks right now with Iran to
I had
shift
heard
back.
4, so it's been expanded to 5 now.
Well, I think he said 4 to 5 weeks. I could be wrong. I'll be fair.
It doesn't even matter. You won $50. That's
I did. I did win $50. This is on the record. Alex, you owe me money. But anyway, I think it's interesting in the fact that like now we're at 5 weeks, and I don't think this is gonna end soon. I just have that speculation because let's be real, I've been hurt before. Thanks, Bush. Thanks, Obama.
Yeah.
Like, I've been hurt before. Like, I've seen this play out. And if you were not alive,
I've seen this movie.
Yeah, this like Change the Record. This song
I've read this book.
Yeah, like, I mean, I will be.
I've seen this episode of The Simpsons.
Exactly. And I think what we're going to be stuck in is a drawn out conflict. And I think for me, it's like, how many more conflicts we didn't have to enter are we going to enter? Right? Like, I know back when Masa Amini died and Biden was in office, a lot of people were like, well, why aren't we doing something about this? Why aren't we doing something about this? Because of this shit. Because this is where this goes.
We've destabilized them. I understand that maybe destabilization needed to happen. This government needed to be removed. I'm not arguing that it didn't.
Yeah.
But when have we had positive results or a democracy has formed after we have gone in and destabilized a nation?
Well, that's the problem. Forced democracy never really turns into democracy, right? Like, it never really works that way. I can think of one country that we've successfully ousted. Oh God, what was his name? It was at Noriega in Panama.
Yeah.
But we're also talking about a highly condensed country. We're talking about a lot of work to make this happen. And that's the one country I can think of that we've had some sort of successful influential regime change, and I could be wrong. There could be more, but for me right now, that's the only one that I can effectively think of, and I think there's a lot of stipulations to that that are not the same in this situation. Oh, hi, love. Oh, I sent you my YouTube recording.
Well, we also had significant military presence in that country for that. We're
Yeah, in
trying to
Panama.
do this with no boots on the ground.
Yeah.
That has never been successful. I really cannot think of a single time that it was successful under those circumstances.
Like I try to be fair. Like I try to be fair and be like, we did have like one
Right.
moderately successful one, but yeah, there like I said, there's a lot of overriding factors that change.
I want to say there were like 25,000, 30,000 troops in Panama when we did that.
Yeah. We have zero boots on ground, and we're just like, they've already basically put the new person in that they're pretty sure is going to be the Ayatollah. Like, are we just going to keep we're going to keep clapping people until we just hit the end of the line, because they're just going to make more. Like,
and ironically, I heard a rumor, and again, I have not fact checked this, so don't come at me, but I heard the administration I heard said something to the effect of, well, the new leaders want to negotiate. I was pretty sure we were already in negotiations when we decided to pull out and do this. And this is somebody a little further down the command chain. So we would just be negotiating with the people that we ended negotiations with before we decided to drop the boom boom. So I don't really understand.
like, honestly, listen, I'm no military strategist. I don't know all the ins and outs to this. I'm just saying, and this is my feelings based issue, right? Like, this is not like a knowledge or whatever based. This is just feelings. As a non-interventionalist, I'm so fucking horrified by this that I don't even know that I want to know what comes of it, other than just like, I am crossing, hoping, wishing on a prayer that they are able to, one, produce evidence of this immediate threat. I've heard a lot of allegations. I haven't seen a lot of evidence. And that also, that this ends in 5 weeks or whatever they're saying now. But I've been hurt before. My heart's been broken before by this shit. Like, I don't buy it anymore. I've heard they have WMDs and didn't find shit. So I don't want soldiers being unalived. I don't want my time, my money, our research time wasted on this. Like, I absolutely deplore the IRGC, but it also wasn't our job to fix it. Two things can be true at once.
Agreed.
All right, my love. You got anything else for today?
No, I think that covers it. But do some looking into that AI thing, because that was really fucking wild.
Okay, I'm gonna take a look at it. I probably just missed it, or
which completely reasonable, right? Because every day it's a fresh hellscape.
Always a fresh hellscape.
Which is why I wanted to get into it before we got into this, because there is so much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you have a great day, and thanks for this. And
all right. Love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Follow our YouTube. It's in our